Reading off of his resume, that might take a day or two to finish, but some spark notes, some summary to mention former executive producer in tennis for Warner Brothers and Discovery, and also currently head of communication in the media, Norwegian Tennis and Paddle Federation. It is Espen Tvedt, and he joins me. I'm Bryan Fenley. This is a sports media podcast, but we do, Espen, have an affinity for racket sports. So excited to learn more about what you're doing and what you have done. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. It's a real pleasure to join you here and talk about the stuff that I guess we both love, racket sports and sports on television and in media in general. What can be better?
What can be better for you as we start this conversation in terms of going to Wimbledon not too long ago? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's not my first time going to Wimbledon, but this is my first time in my new role. I used to go there for Warner Bros. Discovery to actually produce television and do interviews and do courtside stuff with players and that kind of thing. So this was totally new because now the role was more like pushing the players on. Don't get me wrong, but get media to write about or lesser known players, the players in the qualification stages of the competition, and we're having quite a few good players coming up through the ranks, and I'm assuming you will see them in Wimbledon in the not too distant future. But for now, they need some help to generate interest around them, to get the interest they actually deserve from media. So that is sort of what I was doing. I was helping Norwegian media to get in touch with them. Actually, did some interviews for them and sent this over so we could get it both on TV and in the written publications in Norway.
At the very top of Norwegian tennis right now on the men's side is Casper Ruud. But as you said, there are younger players and other players who are starting to make their moves up the rankings. In what you said in supporting these young players and getting them the right attention from a media standpoint and getting their stories out, what does that look like? A play-by-play behind the scenes of all you're doing for these young Norwegians and making sure the world knows what they are and who they are, and that they are in their best positions to succeed as players.
Yeah, as you obviously know, interest and attention is, I wouldn't say everything, but it's a lot of the daily life of a tennis player. You need this to actually generate sponsor interest and all that kind of stuff. So our role is sort of to help them to get across that first bump, and then they can, hopefully make a lot of money and get the attention that they deserve automatically. But it's quite nice actually because and we're lucky obviously because as a federation we have very good access to these players, so we can be backstage with them. We can sort of like get in where maybe not other media can get in. We can be at their hotel. We can talk to them because they 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 trust us in a way that they might not still trust other media, because we're not there to you know do sensational stuff, and we're not there to actually create any scandals or anything. We're only there to help them and support them, and we're not only doing the media part, we're also supporting them with their coaches and stuff like this. We're helping them in all sorts of ways to become the best version of themselves in a way. That's a very popular way of saying it, but it's also very true. So we're there like all the way for them to make sure that they get the support that they need, or at least what we can afford to give them.
When you think about the younger players coming up in Norway, what are some of those stories that you've been able to hear and that you've been able to collect from these players that are inspiring, not only for Norway, but for the tennis world to really hear?
I mean, it's very interesting because, as I'm sure you're aware of, you're coming from a great tennis nation. So you have awesome players, and you've always had them. And then you might have been a little bit down for a few years, and then the federation took some steps and did some stuff, and now you're doing like really, really, really well. So we're trying to sort of, as I said, get the world to actually know them. But then you have to sort of get inside their head in a way, and then like be on their team. Do you understand what I mean? And then get this out to the world, because this is interesting characters. Like, they're super interesting, right? It's just that because they're not top 100 or top 50 or whatever, then media might not think that they are there, or they might not think that there are interest in them, or stuff like this. But you get into them, and then you see that a player like Nikolai Butko-Kjær, for example, he has already moved in a way out on tour, so he's already doing the tour life, not making the money, obviously still. So you need help from like Norwegian sponsors and family, and maybe even some international sponsors if you're really lucky. So the hardship that these people are going through to actually become better and actually get in a position where they can actually make this, not only break even, but where they can actually make money, is to me really, really interesting. And you see the struggle. The struggle is real, as that's definitely not exaggerating. These players are really, really, really working hard to achieve a dream, and in there's all sort of fascinating stories to bring out to people.
What role has Casper Ruud had in not only inspiring anybody in Norway to go play tennis, but to incentivize more players to seek a professional lifestyle?
And this is a really good question, Brian, because without Casper Ruud, I do not think we would see what we're seeing at the moment, because the federation was like, we're a small country, right? So 10 years ago, we were 25,000 members. Now we're 42,000 members. So you do that in percentage, and then you see that this is really growing. So we were really lucky, because I used to work for Warner Bros. Discovery, as I told you, and I had bosses that were like really ambitious, and they wanted to do something. So even though tennis was not a big television sport in Norway, because it's barely attracted any viewers when we started this project for them, and I told them that I believe that, okay, he's 300 in the world now, but he will be top 10. He will definitely be top 10. This kid has everything. He has a father who used to be like 40 in the world, or 39 actually, and he has the system around him, and they're doing great stuff. So this is going to happen. So we want to get in early, and then we want to follow this. So this is what we did. So we followed Casper Ruud, and in the start we gave him a lot more attention than he would normally get if you follow like normal parameters, right? And then people starting following this. So we went from like basically zero viewers, and I'm not really exaggerating, because we didn't have any viewers on tennis in Norway when we started this project, and we went to like 50% shares and stuff like this from the total number of people watching television in Norway. I'm sure you know what shares are, Brian, but I'm just explaining for other people. And this is outrageous, right? This is like, not even football can get those numbers that we got with Casper. And then when people saw this, and they saw that, aha, this is actually possible. The dream is actually possible to become reality. And then you saw the young kids coming to the tennis clubs. You saw even older people coming, playing late in the evening. You saw the youth coming. You saw all kind of people, even the people that just wanted to have fun, that didn't dare to set foot on a tennis club before. Suddenly they were there, and tennis become like a sport where you had like full courts all day, like from start of day until late at night. And this didn't used to happen. So not only did we get a lot more members in the federation, but we also got a lot more people that played a lot more. So at the moment, there's waiting lists to become members of clubs in Norway. So it has totally taken off, and this is obviously because of Casper Ruud and the stuff that was done around him to generate interest. So without him, I don't think we would see what we're seeing.
Amazing. That really is a powerful revelation that you brought up about just the seismic role that Casper Ruud has played within the country's identity and its relationship to tennis. What was Casper's upbringing like, to where he was surrounded by the right people and that would ultimately set him up to succeed?
He's a really good kid. He has been like his mother and father. One is ex-pro. Christian is like I said, 39 in the world. His mother is she used to go on tour with her husband when she was like really young, so she knew this from from inside, and Christian obviously knows what you need to get to the top. But they always like when we spoke a lot when he was like 300 and 250 and stuff like this, and we spoke a lot, and they always said that we want values. We want a player that can actually behave, and we don't want like this. I only know bad words for this. So I'm not going to say it, but you understand what I mean.
Yes.
So they want like a player with the correct values and that are able to behave and that will behave on court. They don't want we don't want a racket smasher. We don't want someone who's saying all the bad stuff and all that kind of stuff. And so this was like very, very important for them from when he was really, really young. And you can see this because even though some people might think that he's boring because he's not like bringing the big headlines and stuff like this, he's always a good kid, and he has the right values, and he's very, very concerned and taking care of like other people and colleagues, and cares about the younger people coming up. And when you see him at the Davis Cup, for example, you see a top 10 player who is actually there having fun and taking care of, like, for example, Nikolai Budkowskaya that I talked about, that was then like maybe 500 in the world. So there's no divide. They're just good friends and trying to make each other better.
What about when you see him make a long run at a Grand Slam, the US Open not too long ago when he went extremely far? What is it like being him and how he handles those situations? You said the Davis Cup, but then the Grand Slam, especially when he goes on a long run at a US Open like he did.
This was 2022. And I think this was only, what was it, like 3 months after the final of maybe four, after the final of the Roland Garros, the French Open. And I think they learned a lot from that one. So they were like a bit stressed. And if you see the pictures of Casper from when he was in like the hall with Nadal before the first final, you will see a very, very nervous young man who is about to enter the arena. And that sort of showed in the match as well. That wasn't the best match. And then a couple of months later, he went to the US Open, and you see this totally different person who is now a mature man in a way, who went to the final, who went head to head with Carlos Alcaraz, and was like, it was only a couple of bad games at the end of the fourth game there from taking this to a fifth set, and so they learn quickly, and apparently he has always seemed very, very grounded to me. So even if you speak with him before a final, he will always be like polite, not stressed, always the same good kid. So I think the upbringing and the values, it's really working. He is this person. He is this generally nice and caring person.
What about the power and importance he sees in how his brand can grow off of how he conducts himself in like post-match interviews or when he's in press conferences and he's talking to the reporters and being likable and just building the brand and the awareness not only in the state of or in the country of Norway but globally.
Yeah, this is what we're trying to learn. All kind of sports people and also our younger players. You behave, be nice, give the media some time, answer their questions, try to be polite, and even if you're not, we're let's face it, athletes are not always happy with the questions we ask them, but just still try, do your best, and give them a proper answer because they're not there to take you. A lot of sports people think this that the media are there to take them, but what's selling best is like for us too, like right, is if you have a success story, like a really great story, this is what people like the most, right? So we're usually most people are there to bring them up, and then you always have the what I would say bad apples, but even them you try to give them as much as you can, and this is what we're trying to do, and I think they've done most of this his team in a very good way, I would say, because he's generating good sponsors. Like if you saw Roland Garros now, unfortunately he got injured in the second round, but he was like the sponsor for Renault, which is like a really big French brand. So the intro and outro, more or less all the broadcasts on on, for example, Warner Bros. Discovery was Casper in a Renault. So what they're doing is working. So you don't have to be Nick Kyrgios or a total maniac for that to actually bring in sponsors. Or there's room to be yourself, and I think this is an important lesson for people to learn.
There is that fine line between having a personality that rubs off on people and it's likable and that brings in sponsors and brings in new fans, but then not going too far into being controversial, which
Mhm.
some could say that some of the things that Nick has said has been that. But with Casper in all
Just
of it,
just for the record, I really like Nick Kyrgios.
oh
Just for
yeah,
the
me
record, so
too.
you
Me
don't
too.
don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
get me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah. Let's on the record, we love Nick. We think he's amazing. And honestly, I think you could argue that what he's doing is great for the sport from the
Yeah,
sake.
obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So yeah, no shade whatsoever. That let's make that very clear. The 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 thing about you that is fascinating is that you've interviewed some of the best tennis players of
Mm.
all time. Like you could say in the instance of Casper Ruud, or you've talked to Federer and Nadal, and what kind of questions do you feel like Espen are the ones that players most appreciate and that they give you the best answers?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, because I've always asked myself this question, because we want to have the best answers, right? We always do that. It's like so you think, but what generally I would say about this is that if you're standing in a line, right, you might be number 4 or 5 or 8 or whatever, and what always surprises me a bit is that when they come to me like 3 or 4 or 5 or something, they've answered like the same questions like 3 times. So then you change your plan, because you can't do that. You have to ask them something new and fresh, and try to sort of like respect them in a way and respect their time, because if this is the way it's going to be, we could just share tapes. So you try to think, and try to ask them something that's not totally off topic, obviously, because you want to be respectful. You want to know about the match, but if everybody else asks about how it feels to yeah to win that point in the fifth set, then try to do something else. Try to give the overall perspective, or something like that. And I also when you do the pre-match stuff, like if you've been to a Masters 1000, for example, you have like all the top 8 has to come and do an interview, so you get all of them as a rights holder, and it's the same here. They're all often really, really fed up, because they've had a press conference where they have these questions, and then they have it from like 3 broadcasters, and then they're coming to you, and just try to ask them something else. Like I met Andrei Rublev a few years ago, and this was when he was like he was really not talking a lot about the war in Ukraine, but he was like um, I wouldn't say he was a spokesperson against it or for it or whatever, but he really wanted to talk about how this affected him. And I said, Andre, can we, instead of just talking about this tournament, can we please talk about just you and the situation you are in at the moment? And he talked nonstop for like, I think, 3 minutes on that question. It was like it just poured out of him. So obviously this was something he wanted to talk about. So for all journalists, and just read the room. Try to they're people, right? The tennis players are people, and just try to what would you prefer to be asked if you were in this situation? It might be the same. You never know. And I would also like to say one more thing, because I've been really lucky to speak to like you said, Federer, Nadal, even Djokovic after his Wimbledon win, and what always impressed me by especially Nadal was that he will always make you feel good as the interviewer. He will always tell you more or less that this is the best interview that I've ever done, more or less. So you will feel like you've done a really good job when you're going away from him, no matter if he's lost or won or whatever. He really cares. He generally cares about the person on the other side of that microphone. So I was really, really impressed with that. Every time I interviewed him, that was pretty amazing. This is a really special person. This is not only someone who seems nice on TV. He is actually generally very, very nice.
How does that make you more comfortable with what you want to ask when he validates you like that?
It obviously makes you very comfortable, and I think this rubs off on him too, because it's a much better conversation, right? Because okay, I spoke to him like 3 weeks ago, and he's actually very nice. I don't have to, be nervous. I don't have to be like afraid of asking the wrong questions or something. This will just be a nice conversation, and then it always ends up with being so much better. Some of the stuff I've done with him has been really, really good and really enjoyable, I think, for both of us.
There's also the part like where there is that understanding where when you have those kind of conversations with players that there's no hidden agenda here. You're not trying to get them. You're just trying to get to know them. And there is something to be said about how much they can see through questions that might not be asked in the best interests of the player. And when you have that chemistry, it really does show. It really does. It does show. And kudos to you for finding that, and obviously from the Norwegians' perspective, in doing all you can to build up the sport. And your 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 arc of storytelling as well, I think is fascinating because when when do you find it appropriate when talking to pro tennis players to just focus on asking them about their last matches? And then to your point, when have you found more places in the right times to talk to them where you can really go in depth about their life and their childhood and where they're much more inclined and willing to go all those places with you and they're not completely focused on the task at hand like their next match where they're just more open to share just about everything about their life with you?
Yeah, no, I think this is something that you have to feel the room in a way, because you never know, right? Because it's like I said, that they're people as well. So and they're not stupid. They know exactly what you want. You can't, even if you try to hide your question in something else, they will know immediately what you're after. So you can ask sort of like a question that is not like really pointed, and then you will see if they actually go where you want to. I've usually had luck with this approach, because if you go really hard on them, it's like, but why? You will never ever get what you want, because these are superstars, right? These are like some of the biggest athletes in the world, and you have to be respectful. But in my opinion, you can still get exactly what you want and need, and you can get great stuff. But be respectful. Be like, be their. You don't have to be their friend, but you should respect them, and really appreciate that they're giving you some of their time, even if they. I'm sure, like when I interviewed Zverev after his Madrid win, when he qualified for the final. This was also in 2022. It was like 2 o'clock at night, and he just desperately wanted to go home, right? Because he just played a super long match, and he wanted to go home. And the final was 4 o'clock the next day, so he would barely get to his room before he had to start preparing for the final again. But still, he showed up. He did his interview. He was really, really respectful, and you should really, as a journalist, I think, appreciate this, what the player is actually giving you, because it's so much easier for them to say, "No media, I'm going home because there's a match in like 8 hours or whatever, and I need to sleep." And we would all have to respect that as well. But he did it. He showed up, and he did everything he was supposed to do, and he did it really, really good.
For him to do that and handle that situation with you like that, how much do you feel it's important for that to have happened? To know his agent, to know his coaches, for them to be aware of you, for them to be familiar with you, to where it's not just a level of comfort or understanding from you, the interviewer, but his whole team per se knows you, and so there's even more people that are aware of what you are and what you're doing.
Yep. I don't know the answer to this question, to be fair, because I don't really know what they're thinking and what they're saying behind closed door. But I can bring this back to Casper, and I know that the fact that I've worked with them since he was like very low in their rankings, and the fact that I was there, and that they knew they could trust me from the start. And and that I would, even if he lost badly or did, I would ask respectful questions and be like the guy who was not to get them, like you said, and that really helped me because he always showed up for interviews and he always gave me like really good good interviews. So based on that, I would say that it's the better they like you, the more are the better are your chances for them actually showing up and giving you something. Because who wants to talk to like someone being a dick, right? You don't
Yeah.
want that.
There's also something to be said as we conclude the conversation about players being aware of you and being interested in them before the masses rush to them, where you said
Yeah, obviously,
that's
obviously, this is very important.
yeah. So in that case, there has to be an advantage because he's more likely to want to talk to you and share things with you because you spent the time with him. There's a loyalty there. Do you see the power of loyalty that comes across in interviews and how players will talk more with somebody or open up more when they sense that in somebody?
I obviously don't know how they feel against or with other people, or I don't always see the interviews they're doing with other people, so I do not know. But I can say that I'm generally very happy with interviewing tennis players, and I always feel that I get good, honest, and something usually very interesting answers from them. It's not like this tour of duty that they're doing, saying just like blah 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 blah. It's good stuff, and if that is because of me or if this is because they're really professional, I don't know. But I think we should all do our part when we're out there working to like I said, be respectful, be there. Even it's not easy. Can you imagine you're coming off like the biggest loss of your career or something? And then you're coming in, and then there's some guy standing there, and you just want to go home, right? You don't really want to talk to him. So I'm sure that if you're doing that well, and if you're being respectful to them, and if you actually listen to them and try to ask them proper questions and not looking for like this like big stuff, then they will talk to you and give you more the next time. And you will not regret being a decent human being in this situation either. That I'm like 100% sure about.
You posed the question of whether it's how well trained the tennis player is in answering these questions and or how much of it is of your talents that they are like this. I think you deserve to take a little bit of credit. You might not be the one that likes to take credit, but Espen, as we conclude the conversation, Espen Tvedt, I'm Bryan Fenley. Credit is due with what you've done. I appreciate the opportunities to really see behind the scenes what you do and the relationship building that comes with tennis players, the impact that Casper Ruud has had not only on Norway but through his stories and his runs in tournaments globally. And thanks so much for sharing all that stuff with me and for all the work you do in this in the space as well.
My pleasure, Brian. See you around, hopefully.